Monday Night Raw is now over, and Roman Reigns just attacked Seth Rollins, and this show was a very interesting one. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing everything that was Monday Night Raw. Without further ado, let's just go talk about it. All right, so I'm not going to go in order here. I'm just going to talk about all the exciting things that happened. And one of those exciting things that happened is, well, we've seen the return of Roman Reigns. Yes, Roman Reigns at the end of the show came out after Seth Rollins had attacked CM Punk and LA Knight. You see, CM Punk attacked Seth Rollins at the end of his match between him and LA Knight for the World Heavyweight Championship, which a lot of us seen coming in the first place. We all kind of figured that with everything that happened, CM Punk was going to find his way back to Seth Rollins and ultimately attack him. It does suck that it comes at the cost of LA Knight, but both of those two were destroyed, and it looked like the show was going to end as Seth Rollins and his group stood tall over LA Knight and CM Punk, but they wouldn't cut away. It felt like the show was going on longer, and you actually heard Paul Heyman. He said, "Oh, we're going for a pose at the end of the show," and it looked like him, Bronson, Braun, and Seth Rollins were all going to stand tall on the rampway for Monday Night Raw, but that wasn't really the case, because as much as the show was about to end, you were about to witness the man, the myth, the legend, OTC1 Roman Reigns, who did indeed return after a lot of us thought ultimately we weren't going to see him after SummerSlam. A lot of us thought he was one and done, and that was going to be it, and he was going to kind of move on with everything, but it looks like him and Seth Rollins still have a lot of unfinished business. Now, the kicker here is that he attacked Seth Rollins, and it looked like he was giving Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed this crazy beatdown. You've seen Seth pull himself out of the ring and said now is not the time, and then he scooped up Bronson Reed, and he was in a perfect position for a stomp, and Seth Rollins hit the stomp, and then Bronson and Seth picked him up, and then Braun Breaker hit the spear, and then Bronson did all the tsunamis, and ultimately Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and LA Knight were left there in the ring, beaten, while all four of those men did stand on top, and all the security, they came out there and they did what they did. It was ultimately a very good ending. A lot of people expected some type of new member in this faction for Seth Rollins. The funny thing here is a person in my live stream, Miles actually mentioned that he looked at this as Jey Uso potentially being plan B, because I definitely was in the thought process of Jey Uso is going to come out. He is going to save his cousin, especially after what his cousin did for him on Saturday. But that was not the case. We did not see Jey Uso at all on this Monday Night Raw, actually. So I felt it was kind of intriguing. There's going to be a lot that plays out, I think, with this whole main event scene. There is a lot going on, but that wasn't the only thing that happened on Monday Night Raw, because we started the show off with Seth Rollins and LA Knight, and Seth Rollins talked about how he's a visionary and he's mad at the people at home who turned their backs on him because of all the chants of OTC and CM Punk. He hates it and he couldn't stand it, and then he was ultimately interrupted by LA Knight, who said he was a visionary with no vision, which I thought was very, very intriguing in my eyes, as I definitely think, like, oh yeah, that's very true. Because one thing to know about me, I'm a Seth Rollins hater. We're just going to go ahead and put that out there. So we had that take place. We also had some really fun Judgment Day stuff. We seen Finn, JD, and Dom. They confronted the LWO and Dragon Lee. And Dom and Dragon Lee, they made a match, and it was official, and AJ Styles actually walked up, and it does look like they are going to be continuing that feud between Dom and AJ, which ultimately, with everything that happened at SummerSlam, the homage to Eddie and things like that, I really do hope that they do continue this feud. I think it is one of the best feuds on WWE television right now, and AJ is a very comical character. It's nice seeing him in more of a relaxed role. I can appreciate it, because AJ Styles has always been a phenomenal one. He's always been great, right? AJ Styles is fantastic. So him and Dom, they definitely have their things going on. I see it ending up with he'll end up picking up the victory, and I think it will come at the cost of Finn Balor and JD McDonough, who ultimately cost Dominic Mysterio, and maybe it's potentially on accident. even if that is the case, it'll just be nice to see, right? I think we're all kind of ready for this Judgment Day story to end. It's been going on for quite some time, so it truthfully is only a matter of time until that ends. Another big talking point coming out of this show was Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella. A lot of us weren't necessarily sure what was going to be next for Becky Lynch as she came off her victory with Lyra Valkyria, and now Lyra can no longer challenge for that Intercontinental Championship. And the question was answered tonight what it was going to be, and it looks like it's going to be her and Nikki Bella. Now, if you guys don't know, Nikki Bella did recently return to WWE after a long hiatus away from the company, and I just thought Nikki was going to be there to maybe put on a couple matches and then be done and, move on and everything storied, but she is here in a full-time role, and she is definitely a part of this division and the things that are happening, and that was known tonight when she came out and she said the things that she did to Becky. She said that she was a disappointment. When she left and took her hiatus, she felt like she was leaving it to a good person in Becky Lynch, and that ultimately hasn't been the case for Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch has just ultimately disappointed Nikki Bella, and Nikki Bella told Becky Lynch about how we can see through her husband's lies and BS, but hers, we see right through them. That I thought was very interesting. Number one, they make mention of Seth Rollins and Becky, which you've seen earlier in the night too. You've seen Seth Rollins mention Becky in the show where he said the only people who knew about the ruse was his hot wife and his oracle. And then you've seen Becky answer questions about Seth, saying, oh, well, my hot husband. And while all this is great and it's exciting, the big point here was that they got into the husband conversation. And of course, if you know anything about Nikki Bella's past, she was once, I know they were engaged to John Cena. I want to say that is the right thing. I believe they were engaged. I don't believe they ever got married. Maybe they did. I'm sorry. I really don't keep up with the relationship stuff of WWE. But I do believe they were either engaged or married. And in this promo battle, you've seen Becky Lynch, she went to go say, huh, and then she stopped. And then she said, oh, wait, you can't see him now. That's always a little tough, right? And the crowd really erupted for that. They really erupted for that moment, which I thought was awesome, right? It popped me, and you can get a good pop out of me. That means you're doing something right. WWE had a lot of things on this show, whether it had been Naomi and Stephanie Vakir, whether it had been Rhea and Io. There's so much that really came out of the show, but another really big talking point, I think, throughout the show that really wasn't mentioned on the show, it has to do with Karrion Kross. It was reported by Fightful Select that Karrion Kross was not backstage at Monday Night Raw, and it does look like his contract and Scarlett's are up this weekend, so there was a lot of speculation on what Karrion Kross's future could potentially look like. Now, we don't have the answers for that here, and I wish I could bring them to you guys, but I don't have those answers. But I ultimately understand, and I think it would be a true disappointment for WWE to literally silence their fan base, a very strong portion of the fan base, and let Karrion Kross walk away. So I just wanted to make mention of that because they did mention him on TV. There was a segment with Sami Zayn, and they asked about everything with Karrion Kross and how Scarlett and Karrion wanted Sami to use the pipe, but ultimately he's this great good guy and he's not going to do that. That was very interesting. So they did make mention of him, but it does look like there's a potential chance that Karrion Kross could be on his way out of the company, which I hope personally is not the case. And on top of that, we had Rusev, we had Sheamus. They put on a banger match. There was just so much that came out of Monday Night Raw. Ultimately, I was super satisfied with the show. I thought they did everything that they needed to. And here in these kind of videos, guys, these are review videos. So I am going to be giving you guys my rating. I'm going to give it an 8 at 8.5. The reason why I'm going to give it an 8.5 is because they didn't do everything that maybe I wanted them to do. Personally, I felt like they should have opened the show with CM Punk, and then they didn't do that. CM Punk cashed in on, he just came out there and got mauled at the end of the show. I was not a fan of that personally, but I do understand the LA Knight's Seth Rollins thing, Seth Rollins' injury at Saturday night's main event. Ultimately, I do think it leads to something great for LA Knight, which is something that I am very, very much looking forward to. So, Ozzy, if you could put like a little 8.5 right there, boom, 8.5. Yeah, 8.5 stars for Monday Night Raw. They did their thing. It was a good show ultimately. Again, some things I would have done a tad bit differently. And it does look like we're very much set up for next week in Monday Night Raw. But, guys, my name is Billy TKO. If you guys are new here, I highly suggest you guys subscribe and turn on those post notifications because every time I post a video, you guys will get notified. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers. Also, I have a TikTok down below where you guys can follow me and you can see my live reactions to clips of the shows we cover. Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW, TNA, and Friday Night SmackDown. We are doing them all. So I highly suggest you guys do choose to do that. Come join us. Come hang out with us. These watch-alongs that we do are a lot of fun. So make sure, again, you're turning on those post notification bells. Other than that, that is all I have for you guys today. And thank you so much for tuning in to my live Raw post show.